Did Kate block a personal request from Meghan? The headline flashed across Twitter and tabloid alerts like a digital wildfire, ominous, provocative, and entirely unverifiable. Within hours, royal observers split into camps. Some declared it proof of a long-running Cold War between the two duchesses. Others quickly noted not a single credible outlet could confirm the claim. And yet the question refused to die, because even without concrete evidence of a blocked request, the foundation had long been laid. Years of strained optics, conflicting accounts, and eerie silence between Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle had created a vacuum ripe for speculation. And sometimes in the royal sphere, what isn't said matters just as much as what is. The supposed request, according to gossip sites, was a private outreach from Meghan, sent discreetly bypassing formal palace channels asking to clear the air with Kate. No date, no format, no screenshots, just a whisper amplified into a storm. But fact-checkers were quick to point out there is no known source confirming such a message was received, let alone blocked. Still, the narrative stuck, not because it was proven, but because it felt plausible. After all, the fissures between the two women are no secret. Their relationship has been defined not by public fights, but by layers of unspoken tension. Where Meghan is emotive, outspoken, and deeply aware of her narrative, Kate is reserved, duty-bound, and emblematic of royal restraint. They don't need to clash, they simply misalign at a structural level. In the public imagination, Meghan has become the outsider who demanded acknowledgement, while Kate is cast as the silent guardian of institution. And when those two forces meet, even silence feels like a battle cry. Insiders have long speculated that the most cutting moments between the two came not in heated arguments, but in quiet refusals, averted eye contact, delayed replies, carefully staged photos with empty space in between. One royal aide once described the tension as a disagreement about reality itself. Meghan felt unsupported, misunderstood, and at times deliberately excluded. Kate, meanwhile, felt overwhelmed by Meghan's emotional transparency and demands for affirmation. Where Meghan saw coldness, Kate saw formality. Where Meghan wanted acknowledgement, Kate followed protocol. That contrast came into sharp focus during the now infamous bridesmaid dress incident in 2018. Early reports claimed Meghan had made Kate cry. Later, Meghan told Oprah it was the reverse, that Kate had made her cry, and then apologized with flowers. Even that act of contrition became part of a long, winding narrative war. And now in 2025, the whispers return. The idea of a blocked request, true or not, resurfaces all the old questions. If Meghan did reach out privately and Kate ignored her, what does that silence signify? Malice, strategy, or something far more calculated? A senior source at Kensington Palace told The Times, "Nothing unofficial gets answered. If it didn't go through formal channels, it doesn't exist." Yet that very logic is what Meghan has often accused the firm of weaponizing. Their silence is their power. Which leads to the real question beneath the headline: did Kate reject Meghan's request? Or did she follow a royal rule that does the rejecting for her? And when a source close to Meghan revealed she once messaged Kate, "Silence is being weaponized against me," the public stopped asking if a request was blocked and started asking if silence itself was the answer. The royal rift was never defined by explosive arguments or public spats. It was etched in silent side glances and contrasting values. But in 2023, one event cracked the facade wide open, a leak that revived a years-old wound, reigniting scrutiny over the Cold War between Kate and Meghan. It began with a resurfaced detail about the 2018 bridesmaid dress incident, once thought to be resolved. New insider commentary suggested that Meghan had requested an email exchange with Kate be made public to clarify who had made whom cry. The request was never formally answered. The palace declined to release anything. Kate, too, remained silent. It wasn't a direct no, but it functioned as one. That incident, though, years in the past, set the template for what followed. Meghan seeking emotional validation, Kate adhering to royal protocol, Meghan expressing frustration over the silence, Kate preserving it like sacred ground. By 2024, as Meghan attempted to reconnect via more personal channels, reportedly informal messages or intermediaries, the same silence returned. A former royal aide speaking anonymously to The Telegraph confirmed that any message not routed through official palace structures is considered non-binding and non-existent. In essence, if you go around the system doesn't respond. To Meghan, that translated into a quiet stonewall, but to Kate, it was about defending the institution. One source close to Meghan claimed that she attempted to clear the air ahead of King Charles's coronation. She wasn't attending but wanted a private understanding with Kate, not to reconcile in public, but to reset the narrative. Kate, the source said, chose not to reply and instead referred the matter to palace communications. That decision stunned Meghan's team. To them, this was a personal outreach, human to human, woman to woman. But to Kate, it was an official matter. She followed the rules Meghan had long rejected as mechanisms of control. The deeper tension isn't just personal, it's ideological. Kate believes in the sanctity of silence. It's not just self-preservation, it's service. Every word spoken without institutional clearance risks destabilizing the monarchy. Meghan, on the other hand, has built a narrative rooted in breaking silence, claiming that silence left unchecked becomes complicity. That clash came into sharp focus when a previously unreleased clip from Meghan's interview prep for Oprah was leaked. In it, Meghan says, "It's not just the silence, it's what that silence enables." That line became a rallying cry for her defenders and a coded critique of Kate's entire modus operandi. Meanwhile, internal palace documents confirmed that Kate and William's household had adopted a formal protocol, post-Megxit: no engagement on unsanctioned narratives, meaning not only would they not comment on Meghan's claims, they wouldn't even acknowledge attempts at informal outreach. This wasn't coldness, they argued, it was preservation. But the divide grew. In late 2024, metadata from a private message allegedly sent by Meghan surfaced online. The message contained one loaded phrase: "I believe our silence is being misused." Suddenly, everything changed. Critics saw this as proof that Meghan wasn't seeking peace. She was setting a trap. By framing silence as complicit, she pushed Kate into an impossible position: speak and break protocol, or stay quiet and appear guilty. Supporters countered Meghan was calling out a system that weaponized silence as deflection. Neither side budged. But when that phrase, "our silence is being misused," was traced back to a private note Meghan reportedly sent to Kate, the question shifted. Was this a plea for connection or a chess move in a much bigger war of narratives? For months, the public clung to the image of Meghan as the one seeking peace, a figure attempting to reconnect across the moat of royal formality only to be met with stone-faced protocol. But then one sentence flipped that entire narrative. "I believe our silence is being misused." Initially interpreted as a quiet cry for understanding, the phrase, leaked from a private message allegedly sent to Kate, soon took on a far more strategic interpretation. As media analysts began dissecting the line, a new reading emerged. Was Meghan not simply seeking dialogue, but reframing the silence as shared responsibility? According to royal commentator Charlotte Griffiths, this wasn't just an emotional plea, it's a rhetorical tactic. That line turns Kate's silence from neutrality into complicity. It puts the burden on her to speak or appear guilty. It was a subtle form of pressure, elegant, plausible deniability built in, but pressure nonetheless. And suddenly, everything Kate had done to avoid escalation was reframed as deliberate refusal. The internet exploded with takes. If Kate stays quiet now, she's confirming everything Meghan said. Others argued it's a setup. No royal can respond to private letters made public. Even seasoned palace insiders were rattled. One source close to William and Kate told The Times the family's policy is no engagement. But that phrase, "our silence," it made Kate feel like she was being recruited into someone else's story. What had looked like a peace offering now felt like a loaded sentence. And then came the bombshell that sealed the twist. A senior royal aide, anonymously quoted in the Sunday Telegraph, revealed that back in 2021, shortly after the Oprah interview aired, there had been a closed-door meeting at Kensington Palace. On the agenda, how to handle possible future informal emotional outreach from Meghan. According to notes from that meeting, now leaked: no unsanctioned personal engagement. Maintain institutional voice, any deviation becomes vulnerability. Even more telling, William's recorded statement from the same session: no one in this family is to respond to emotional bait. That's how headlines are made. The words hit hard, not just because of their tone, but because they confirmed what Meghan's defenders had long suspected: her attempts at connection would never be answered. Not because they lacked merit, but because they didn't fit the system. The twist was brutal in its clarity. Meghan wasn't ghosted. She was institutionally ignored by design. Her emotional language, her framing of silence, as manipulation, her call for acknowledgement, none of it could penetrate the royal firewall. And yet, from the palace's perspective, this firewall wasn't cruelty, it was containment. Kate, they insisted, wasn't acting out of spite. She was playing her role as the future queen, as the keeper of tradition, as the public's final image of order. To respond even gently was to open a door that could never be closed. But for Meghan, silence wasn't neutral. It was a form of gaslighting, a way to deny, delay, deflect. In her worldview, every non-reply became an unspoken no, every protocol a passive rejection of personhood. The twist cut both ways. Was Meghan setting up Kate by reframing silence? Or was Kate hiding behind rules to avoid responsibility? The public, once firmly split, now began to shift uneasily. For the first time, both women's strategies looked deliberate, and the lines blurred. But the next revelation would pierce even deeper, because a long-forgotten handwritten note from Meghan resurfaced with a final line referencing the same system that broke your mother. Suddenly, this wasn't just personal, it was generational. It was a leak no one saw coming, buried deep within royal archives and almost forgotten. A handwritten note penned by Meghan in the aftermath of the 2021 Oprah interview quietly resurfaced through a whistleblower connected to the Sussex's early PR team. Its content recentered the entire rift, not just around silence, not even around power, but around trauma legacy and a haunting royal echo. The note, modest in tone but loaded in implication, ended with this final sentence: "I hope we don't let the same system that broke your mother define our silence too." For days, British media hesitated to touch it, but once published by The Guardian, it ignited a firestorm. Because that your mother wasn't hypothetical. It was unmistakably Diana Kate's late mother-in-law, the very ghost who still casts a shadow over every decision made within the royal household. And suddenly, Meghan's narrative arc reached its sharpest point. What had begun as a possible private request, perhaps even an attempt at reconciliation, was now revealed to have a core accusation that Kate, through silence, through inaction, was aligning herself with the very institutional coldness that destroyed Diana. It wasn't just personal, it was historic. The timing of the letter's release only deepened the impact. It coincided with a scheduled royal appearance by Kate at a children's hospice named in honor of Diana. Cameras rolled, crowds cheered, but as photos surfaced of Kate with tearful patients, online discourse told a different story. Viral captions read honoring Diana in public, ignoring her echo in private. Inside royal walls, the backlash triggered alarms. Kensington Palace issued no official comment, but privately insiders confirmed that William and Kate felt deeply betrayed. The framing of Kate not just as distant, but as complicit in Diana's fate, was viewed as a nuclear escalation. One palace advisor described the note as strategic emotional warfare. You don't reference Diana lightly, not in this family, not unless you're ready to scorch earth. To Meghan's defenders, the letter was not an attack, it was a mirror. A painful poetic plea to break a cycle that silences women in favor of pageantry. To her critics, it was a masterstroke of manipulation. What could Kate possibly say in return? Deny Diana's trauma? Defend the system? Either way, she loses. But perhaps the most revealing moment came when Kate's personal secretary gave an off-the-record quote to The Times. Catherine never saw herself as Diana. She sees her role as stabilizer, not reformer. She didn't break the system, she married it. That single sentence reframed Kate not as a passive bystander, but as a conscious participant in the monarchy's grand design. A woman who chose preservation over confrontation, form over feeling. And so the contrast solidified. Meghan, the disruptor, emotional, direct, historically loaded. Kate, the steward, measured, silent, institutionally loyal. Neither cruel, neither innocent, just fundamentally opposed in philosophy. Meanwhile, public reaction fractured even further. Younger audiences rallied around Meghan's invocation of Diana, citing intergenerational trauma and the need for change. Older royalists defended Kate's composure, seeing Meghan's note as a dangerous politicization of grief. Even within the palace, there were murmurs of doubt. One junior royal staffer confessed to The Independent. "We always knew silence could be misread. We just didn't expect it to be weaponized with Diana's name." And yet, behind closed doors, a second note never sent was discovered among Meghan's drafts. Its final line: "History doesn't repeat itself, it just chooses a different sister." The war of words wasn't over, it was just evolving. There are no more anonymous leaks, no new emails, no audio tapes. Just two women, once sisters-in-law, now symbols of two irreconcilable worldviews trapped in a royal ecosystem that rewards silence but punishes emotion. In the end, Meghan's note, real or leaked, sent or unsent, became more than a message. It became a mirror, one that exposed not just a strained relationship, but a dynasty allergic to vulnerability. For Kate, the silence was not passive, it was policy. She stood by the crown not just as a future queen consort, but as a custodian of royal image. To her, engaging outside the firm's boundaries wasn't an option, it was a breach of duty. To Meghan, that very silence was the betrayal. What the public once interpreted as coldness from Kate now appears to be calculated distance, and what many took as Meghan's emotional overreach now registers as a deliberate campaign to shift the narrative, to pierce the monarchy's armor from the outside. Each woman in her own way acted out of belief, out of loyalty to different things. Kate to the crown, Meghan to her truth. And so the notion that Kate blocked Meghan's request, a phrase never officially confirmed, becomes irrelevant. What matters is not the literal request, but the invisible boundary it represented. A line drawn long before any message was ever sent. A line neither of them could or would cross. Even now, after the leaks, after the viral headlines, the silence remains. No statement from Kate, no follow-up from Meghan, just one final fragment discovered in Meghan's unsent draft. Some walls are built to protect, others are built to forget. That line may never be printed on paper, but its echo lingers in every unanswered question, every ceremonial appearance, every carefully staged photo op that includes one but not the other. The divide isn't just personal anymore, it's institutional, cultural, even generational. And for a royal family built on image, the image of two duchesses, one frozen in protocol, the other burning in emotion, will define this chapter for years to come. Do you believe Kate's silence was necessary to protect the crown #Team Protocol? Or do you stand with Meghan, who challenged that silence to reclaim her voice? Had team voice. Comment your take below #team protocol. She followed the rules to protect the institution. #team voice. She broke the silence to defend her truth.